On the marketing side, regardless of how sophisticated your thinking might be on revenue and the different ideas you have for monetizing, in most cases, having a sustainable, successful entrepreneurial journalism venture requires building from one customer up to 10, up to 100, and up to 1,000. In many cases, you have to move up even further than that, but in some cases you can start with 1,000 to 10,000 core customers if they're valuable customers or if you have related products that are valuable. And to do that, you have to think about the different marketing streams and the marketing approaches that you use to build from that first person to the 10th person to the 100th person and so on. We won't get into great depth on marketing for the moment, but I just want to say a few things about it. First is that there are generally 3 buckets of marketing. There's paid marketing, where you place advertisements increasingly on social channels like Facebook and Twitter, for example, as well as Google. There is earned marketing that you earn by creating something really new and exciting, a new product or service that's kind of cool and different, that people want to write about, that people want to share through their social channels and talk about. And finally, through owned marketing, owned material that is content you create yourself. So a lot of the successful journalism ventures these days have created their own content on their own social channels that help spread the word about what they're doing. And that owned content can be helpful in disseminating information much more widely than otherwise might have been the case. And that's content that you have control over, so you can shape it in your own way with your own objectives in mind. So those are the 3 primary approaches to marketing. And when you're thinking about the product, you're thinking about building an audience and building a community all along the way. When you think about the product, you're thinking about how it will look and feel. How will people engage with the product or service? What will it look like to them? What will they use it for? All of those product questions end up being related to the success of the marketing in the long run. Where will they find it? Will they encounter it through particular social channels? Will they encounter it by attending an event and hearing about it? That's the place out of these 4 Ps. We've talked about the product, now the place. Moving on to promotion, which form of advertising will we use? How will we raise awareness about the product? How will people find out about it? And finally, the price. Is this a free product? And if so, how will we price related products and services that generate revenue for us? So these are core 4 Ps that we think about along the way, building from 1 to 10 users to 100 and so on and so forth. And we think about our communication strategy as part of that. So what's the message that we want to convey? Is this the sleekest new way for lawyers to find out what's going on in the legal profession? Is this a new audio app that lets, or a new podcast that lets doctors in a particular field catch up on key developments in their profession? What's the key message that we want people to know about this new product or service? How do we reach them? So how do we find them where they already are, platforms or services that they're already using, so they'll be available to receive this new message? And how are we going to measure whether we're actually reaching them? What are our goals in reaching them? What do we want them to do? What action do we want them to take? Do we want them to subscribe to something, to listen to something, to download something, to share something, to comment on something, to download, etc.? We have an action we have in mind, and then how much money can we spend on this messaging, or how much effort and time will we spend on this messaging and marketing? So these are, again, core questions that are helping us to think through this process of moving from our first customer when we create our new product or service to our 10th and 100th, because we have to move beyond our moms and dads, and we have to find other people to consume and value our products and services. There are a lot of challenges for existing organizations as well as new organizations. There's a lot of competitors out there, whether you're Bloomberg or Time Out, whatever sector you're in, there's new competitors that are out there. There are shifting reader habits. People are consuming news and information differently. Their expectations are different. And therefore, there are a lot of challenges in meeting those shifting needs. But if you're focused on what the customer actually wants and what people are actually doing in their lives, you're often in a good position to reach them with your new product or service in a way that actually resonates with who they are and what they need. One development in the new news ecosystem is the fact that snackable media is on the rise. Snackable media is all of that content that flows by on Facebook and Twitter that in some cases is fake news, in some cases is low quality news, in some cases is high quality news, but in all cases is intended, is created, is distributed for people to snack on in little chunks and to share with others. And that's an important aspect of this new news ecosystem. It's, in a way, a kind of candy for our busy brains. Just like snack food in general has increased in popularity over the years, snackable content is dramatically increasing in popularity, and it's important for us as entrepreneurial journalists and those interested in creating new things to be aware of that. Now, I'm not suggesting that we need to just create that because that's commonly popular. What I'm suggesting is that we have to be aware that that's the atmosphere, the environment that we're creating things in, and that that's some of the competition that we'll be facing. People are gobbling up this kind of bite-sized media through these social platforms and on mobile devices. They're binging on these Twitter tidbits and Facebook tidbits and Snapchat tidbits, and news in some cases feels like it's ancient even after just a few hours. And as a result, our news ecosystem is different than it was even just a few years ago. And as a result of that, we have to be really thoughtful about what we're adding to the news ecosystem and what its gaps are and what we can do that distinguishes itself from that mass of content that falls into this category of snackable content. There's abundant free material. There's a ton of free stuff that's already out there. So we have to think carefully about whether what we're adding or considering adding adds value and how it adds value and for whom it adds value, and whether there's some money to be had around it in some way before we delve in. And so that's why it's important to go through this process of thinking through this creation process in a step-by-step kind of manner so that we make sure what we're adding actually adds value. And we have to be aware of the role that platforms play. So we can't create something in this era that ignores the fact that these platforms, social platforms, mobile platforms, are dominant forces in how people consume information. So we have to think, as part of whatever we create, about how we incorporate people's social habits and social preferences into our products and services. And as we develop our own skills as entrepreneurial journalists, we have to think about what strengths we can build upon. So can we build our multimedia skills to create content that's more compelling? Can we strengthen our understanding and our capacity for capitalizing on social media so we can reach people on the social platforms more effectively? Can we design things to be cleaner and simpler to cut through the noise? And can we take advantage of data to more effectively summarize all of the complexity that's happening out there? Can we code things so that we can actually develop new products and services that take advantage of the power of coding? Can we curate information effectively to draw on all of the great stuff that's being created? And then can we monetize? Can we think about a business from a business perspective? Can we think about ways to generate revenue, ways to minimize costs, ways to balance our books, and think strategically about the products and services we're creating? Now, not everyone can have all of these 6 areas of skill and be strong in all 6 of these areas, but the key, I think, is to be really, really strong in at least one of them and have a sense of how the other things work and to continue to develop our own understanding of these other core areas so that we're well-rounded and well-positioned to work with others and to partner with others in each of these arenas. Regardless of what we do with our journalism startups, we're going to have to make changes. We're going to have to find people who we work well with. We're going to have to pilot something, start it, and see how it works, and then pivot when we find out that actually this part of it isn't working quite as well, or that part of it needs to be refined. So piloting and pivoting is a crucial aspect of this process, and it happens through all the phases of an entrepreneurial journalism venture. It happens when we're first starting something, and we look for people who are similarly passionate about the topic or who have skill sets that are complementary with ours. And it happens throughout the process of creating and then building something, because we need to be aware when things aren't working that we're going to have to make changes. One of the hardest decisions entrepreneurial journalists have to make along the way is to part ways with a particular partner they've been working with, or with a particular product they've been working on, which just isn't working well for the community that they're serving. So being flexible and being able to pilot something, to try it, and then to pivot based on the reaction of people to that, and based on its success, and based on the resonance that the product or service has, is a crucial part of the entrepreneurial journalism process.